Ethan Reynolds had always been the kind of man who believed in building rather than borrowing. While most of his college friends chased comfortable jobs at big companies, he had chosen a harder road. His father owned a small, struggling manufacturing business in Chicago, and Ethan decided to step in. The company was nothing special back then. A few old machines, outdated systems, and a reputation that barely kept it afloat. But Ethan saw possibility. His parents had always told him, "Work hard, Ethan. One day, this company will be yours." Those words became his anchor, the reason he turned down everything else. He threw himself into the work with a focus that surprised even his parents. He studied new technologies, learned how to modernize operations, and met with clients to rebuild trust in the family name. The days were long, often stretching past midnight. He lived more in the office than at home, surrounded by piles of blueprints, contracts, and empty coffee cups. Friends joked that he was married to the business. They weren't wrong. Ethan gave the company every part of himself. As the years went on, the results showed. Clients began to return. Profits, once barely enough to pay wages, climbed steadily. Ethan's name became known in the industry. And even his competitors admitted that the young man had revived what should have collapsed years earlier. To him, it wasn't just about numbers. It was about proving his worth to his family. Every success, every small victory was a way of silently saying, "See, I'm the one you can trust. I'm the one who will carry this forward." But his sacrifices were heavy. Birthdays came and went without him. Friends stopped inviting him to gatherings, tired of his constant excuse. "I can't. I'm at the office." His college girlfriend, Emily, had once begged him to move with her to chase a life beyond spreadsheets and contracts. He had looked at her with a tired smile and told her he couldn't leave, not when the company needed him. She had walked away in tears, and he had buried the ache beneath more work. Still, Ethan held on to the promise. The company was more than business. Now was his life's purpose. His parents' words repeated in his mind whenever he doubted himself. "One day, this will be yours." He imagined that day often. He saw himself standing in the office, the official owner, the man who had taken something broken and turned it into a legacy. He thought about the pride in his parents' eyes, the respect from his sister, Claire, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that the 10 years he had given had not been wasted. It wasn't just a dream. It was what kept him going through exhaustion and loneliness. He believed every sacrifice would be worth it. And even when doubts crept in, even when he felt the emptiness of a life narrowed down to one purpose, he reminded himself that the ending would be beautiful. On the 10th anniversary of his first day at the company, Ethan stood in his office late into the night. Papers covered his desk, the city lights glowed through the window, and silence surrounded him. He looked around at the place he had rebuilt and whispered, almost like a prayer, "This is mine." But in truth, he didn't know how fragile that belief was. He didn't know that the promise he had lived by for 10 years was not the promise his parents had intended to keep. He didn't know that a single dinner would change everything. Friday evening felt ordinary when Ethan drove to his parents' house. The autumn air was cool and the city's streets glowed with warm lights. He hadn't been home for dinner in weeks, too consumed with work, but tonight his parents had insisted. He walked into the familiar house, the smell of rosemary chicken filling the air. His mother greeted him with a smile, his father with a firm pat on the shoulder, and his younger sister Claire's laughter echoed from the kitchen. For a moment, it felt like family again. Easy and simple. They sat down together around the dining table, the one Ethan had grown up around. Plates clinked, conversations overlapped, and for a while he allowed himself to enjoy it. He listened to Claire talk about a new art show she had visited. She had always been the dreamer, chasing hobbies, never tied down by responsibilities. Ethan had accepted that long ago. He believed he was the one chosen to carry the weight of the family legacy. While she would live her life freely, as they passed the breadbasket, his father cleared his throat. The sound cut through the chatter, steady and deliberate. Ethan straightened, his chest tightening slightly. He sensed if this was it, the moment he had been waiting for. His father's tone was casual, but the words carried weight. "Ethan," his father began, "we've finalized the ownership papers for the company." The sentence lit something inside him. Relief, pride, excitement, all of it rushed forward. After 10 years of sacrifice, finally, he would hear the words he had carried in his heart. He set down his fork, his eyes fixed on his father, waiting. But then his mother spoke, her hand resting gently on Claire's. Her voice was soft, almost apologetic. "Your sister owns 75%. You'll have the rest." The words didn't make sense at first. Ethan blinked, his mind racing, trying to catch up. 75%? To Claire. The sound of cutlery and quiet chewing faded into silence around him. He felt the air shift, heavy and sharp. His hands slipped, and his fork clattered against the plate, echoing too loudly in the room. He looked at Claire. She avoided his eyes, her cheeks flushed with something between guilt and unease. She twisted her napkin in her hands, clearly uncomfortable. But she didn't say anything. Ethan's chest tightened, his voice barely holding steady. 75% to Claire. His father gave a measured nod, as if it were a reasonable decision. "It's what we thought was best for the family." Ethan let out a hollow laugh, not from amusement, but from disbelief. He stared at his parents, searching for any sign that this was some kind of mistake, a misunderstanding. But their calm expressions told him it wasn't. His mother's eyes softened, filled with a mixture of concern and quiet resolve. "You're strong, Ethan. You've always been strong. Claire needs more security. We thought this would be fair." The word fair burned in his ears. This be fair? It's 10 years of building, 10 years of missed moments, 10 years of giving everything reduced to a quarter share. Claire finally spoke, her voice small, almost breaking. "Ethan, I didn't ask for this. I didn't even know until tonight." She reached across the table slightly, but he pulled back, the distance between them growing wider with every second. He felt anger rising, but beneath it, a deeper pain cut through. It wasn't just about the company, it was about trust. His parents had promised him, not in contracts, but in words, in glances. In the countless times they had told him, "One day, this will be yours." And now, at a dinner table filled with familiar warmth, they had taken it away in a single sentence. The food in front of him lost all taste. The room, once filled with laughter, now felt suffocating. His father tried to shift the conversation back to lighter topics, but Ethan couldn't hear any of it. His mind was a storm. Every sacrifice he had made, every night spent alone in the office, every dream of one day being the rightful owner, all of it felt stolen. When dinner finally ended, he stood quickly, his chair scraping against the floor. His parents called after him, asking him to stay, but he couldn't. He needed air. He needed space. He needed to breathe away from the walls that had suddenly closed in around him. As he walked out into the night, the cool breeze hit his face, but it did nothing to calm the fire in his chest. He had come to dinner expecting his future to be confirmed. Instead, he left carrying a betrayal that cut deeper than he ever imagined. That night, the promise of 10 years lay shattered. And Ethan, for the first time, realized he might not know his family at all. Ethan barely slept that night. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, his mind racing, his chest heavy. The image of his parents sitting calmly across the dinner table replayed again and again, their voices echoing in his head. "Your sister owns 75%. The words wouldn't leave him. 10 years of building the company, 10 years of sacrifice, and it had been handed away like it was never his at all. By morning, he couldn't stay inside. He left his apartment and walked the empty Chicago streets, his hands shoved deep in his pockets, the city lights dimming as dawn crept in. He thought about everything he had given up. Vacations, friendships, even love. He had always told himself it was worth it, that one day he would own the company. That was the future he believed in. Now it felt like he had been chasing smoke. His mind drifted to Emily, the girl he had once loved. She had begged him to come with her when she moved to Seattle years ago, telling him there was more to life than the business. He had chosen the company instead. She had left with tears in her eyes, and he had buried his feelings under endless work. Now he wondered if she had been right all along. What was the point of all those sacrifices if, in the end, it was taken away? As the sun climbed higher, Ethan returned home exhausted but restless. He had barely sat down when a knock came at his door. He opened it to find Claire standing there, holding 2 coffees, her expression uncertain. For a moment, he considered shutting the door, but something in her nervous eyes stopped him. With a sigh, he stepped aside and let her in. Claire sat on the edge of his couch, her hands trembling around the paper cup. "Ethan," she began softly, "I didn't ask for any of this. Mom and Dad made the decision without telling me. They think I need security. They think you're strong enough to make your own way." Ethan let out a sharp breath, pacing the room. "Strong enough? Claire, I gave 10 years of my life to that company. 10 years, and they just hand it to you." His voice cracked with anger and pain. "Do you know what that feels like?" Tears welled in her eyes. "Yes, I know it's unfair. I know you built it. I don't even want it, Ethan. I don't know how to run it. I never wanted to take it from you." She wiped her eyes quickly, her voice shaking. "I wanted to paint, to live freely. But they don't see me the way they see you. They think I need protecting." Her words softened the sharp edge of his anger. He wanted to hate her, but seeing her break in front of him made it impossible. The betrayal wasn't hers, belonged to their parents. She was as much a victim of their decision as he was. Ethan sat down across from her, his hands still restless. "So what now? You own 3/4 of everything I built, and I get what's left. How do you expect me to move on from that?" Claire hesitated, then leaned forward. "I don't expect you to move on alone. There's something you should know. Someone reached out to me months ago. She asked about you, and I think you need to see her." Ethan frowned. "Who?" Claire's eyes searched his face carefully, as if weighing whether he was ready. Then she whispered, "Emily." The name hit him like a wave. For years, he had buried her memory deep, convincing himself she was part of a life he could never have. Hearing her name now stirred feelings he thought were long gone: longing, regret, and a sharp ache in his chest. Claire placed a hand on his arm gently. "She never stopped believing in you. Ethan, I think she's the one person who can remind you that you're more than this company." Ethan stared at her, speechless. His world had crumbled overnight, and now the past was knocking on his door again. A part of him wanted to resist, to push it all away. But another part, the part that was tired of carrying everything alone, wondered if maybe Claire was right. For the first time in years, Ethan wasn't thinking about profit margins or contracts. He was thinking about what it meant to be seen, to be loved for who he was, not for what he built. And as Claire quietly left his apartment, leaving him with nothing but a coffee cup and a name that refused to fade, Ethan realized his breaking point had come. He could either let the betrayal define him more, take back his life in a way no one expected. Ethan couldn't sleep that night. The words from the dinner kept repeating in his mind, twisting and turning until they burned like fire. "Your sister owns 75%. 10 years of sweat. Late nights and sacrifices, all of it seemed meaningless." He tossed and turned, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of betrayal pressing on his chest. Every memory of the company, every sleepless night spent building it from the ground up, now seemed tainted. The promise his parents had made felt like a lie, and the trust he had placed in them felt fragile and broken. By dawn, Ethan was restless. He left his apartment, walking the quiet Chicago streets, the cool morning air brushing against his face, but offering no comfort. His thoughts raced. Why would his parents do this? Why hand over what he had built to someone who hadn't worked for it? He replayed the years in his head, the long hours, the missed birthdays, the friendships he had let slip away. He remembered Emily, the girl he had loved and lost because he had chosen the company over her. She had begged him to leave, to come with her to Seattle, to take a chance on a life beyond ledgers and clients. He had said no. She had cried, and then she had walked away. And now he wondered if that sacrifice had even mattered. The streets blurred as he walked, the city around him moving in slow motion while his mind raced. He felt hollow, angry, and hurt all at once. His dreams, the very thing that had driven him for a decade, had been handed to someone else without a word to him. He had always thought of Claire as carefree, artistic, someone who wouldn't care about business, but now she held more of it than he did. It was surreal, almost unbearable. Ethan's thoughts returned to Claire, imagining her in the living room, quiet and uncomfortable, avoiding his eyes during dinner. He remembered how she had always followed her own path, how he had often envied her freedom. Yet now, she was unwillingly placed in a position of control over something that was his life's work. Anger flared at his parents' choice, but beneath it, a strange sense of guilt crept in. Claire didn't ask for this. She was not the enemy. The real betrayal had come from the people he trusted most. By mid-morning, he returned home exhausted, both physically and emotionally. He had walked for hours trying to process the shock, the pain, and the anger swirling inside him. Just as he sank into his chair, a knock came at the door. Claire appeared holding 2 coffees, her hands shaking. She looked hesitant, unsure whether he would even let her in. But something in her eyes stopped him from shutting the door. He stepped aside, motioning for her to enter. She sat across from him, her posture nervous. "Ethan," she began softly, "I didn't ask for this. Mom and Dad made the decision without even telling me. They think I need security, and they think you're strong enough to make your own way." Ethan's anger bubbled to the surface. "Strong enough," he spat. "Strong enough to spend 10 years giving everything to this company, only to have it handed to someone else. Do you even understand what that feels like?" His voice shook with frustration and hurt. He wanted to scream, to hit something, to release the storm inside him. Tears welled in Claire's eyes. "I know it's unfair. I know you built this. I never wanted to take it from you. I don't know how to run it. I don't even want it." Her voice was trembling now. "I wanted to paint, to live freely. But they don't see me that way. They see you as strong and me as fragile. I'm just caught in the middle." Ethan stared at her, the fire of anger softening slightly. He had wanted to blame her, to make her feel guilty, but seeing her vulnerable, he realized she was another victim. The real betrayal was not hers. He exhaled slowly, though the ache in his chest remained. The world he had built with sweat and determination now seemed uncertain, and he didn't know where to turn. Claire leaned forward, her eyes locking on his. "There's someone you need to see. Someone who still believes in you." Ethan frowned, confused. "Who?" he asked sharply. Claire hesitated, then whispered Emily. The name hit him like a jolt of lightning. Emily, the girl he had loved and let go. The girl whose memory he had buried deep within himself was suddenly real again. His chest tightened and memories flooded back. Her laughter, the softness of her voice, the way she had believed in him even when he doubted himself. For a moment he forgot the company, the betrayal, the anger. "She never stopped caring," Claire continued softly. "She reached out to me months ago. She asked about you, Ethan. She believes in you even now. I thought you should know." Ethan's heart pounded. Seeing Emily again seemed impossible, yet something inside him stirred. He realized that his life had been defined by the company for so long that he had forgotten he could still have something else, something real, something human, something that mattered beyond contracts and profits. The realization hit him hard. He could let this betrayal define him. Let it consume him with anger and regret, or he could reclaim his life in a different way. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to imagine a life where he wasn't defined by ownership, where he could feel joy, connection, and love again. Claire placed her hand gently on his arm, a quiet gesture of support. "You don't have to do this alone. You have people who care about you, who still believe in you." Ethan's eyes softened, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. The weight of the world was still,